Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe. Then you can head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and join in the discussion. Well, hello everyone. Hope you guys had a great weekend. It is Monday here in Austin, Texas. I am enjoying my day off, one of the few days off I get. Not been doing too much, just spending some time with my daughter, trying to keep her busy now that she's in full summer mode. I mean, of course, she's, still in the whole social distancing thing like a lot of us are. But right now I went back to work. My wife's working from home, so my days off consist of trying to keep her active. However, today she's in the living room right now watching Sonic the Hedgehog for the second time in a row. So, you know what? Quality programming, so I'll let it slide. Anyway, guys, I have a nice little story here to talk about today that I'm just going to jump right into. So Friday, it was announced by Universal that they are going to come out with a Wolfman remake starring none other than Ryan Gosling, of course, Gosling from current films Blade Runner 2049, La La Land, The Big Short, First Man, all those good stuff. You know who he is. I mean, for me personally, I remember him best from Crazy Stupid Love because that movie is hilarious with Steve Carell and Emma Stone and Julianne Moore. It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's hilarious. It's great. But Ryan Gosling is going to be heading this film. Now, it says, according to Variety, he actually made the pitch for the Wolfman remake. The original Wolfman movie came out in 1941, and then there was another remake in 2010 with Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, and Anthony Hopkins. I never saw the original one, but I've seen the reboot. Now, no word yet if this is going to be another attempt by Universal to restart their dark universe that they wanted to do all those years ago. So just give you a little history, of course. It was going back to about 2014 or so. The film Dracula Untold with Luke Evans, I guess, was supposed to be the start of Universal trying to do their own cinematic universe. Of course, by this time, Avengers had come out, the MCU was rolling, and everyone else was scrambling with their properties they had to get some kind of franchise, shared cinematic universe going. Universal had this, and Warner Brothers has all the DC characters. They saw the dollar signs, and they realized that, Marvel can do it, so we can do it, and nobody's done it since, to be honest, at least not as good as Marvel. Warner Brothers is starting to learn their lesson, of course, but I think they still have a couple more lessons to learn, given some current headlines. But anyway, going back to Universal, of course, a couple years later, you had The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise. Now, this was an official announcement, actually, that they were actually going to do what they call the Dark Universe, monster movies put together, because that's what Universal owns. They had everyone cast even. That first film had Tom Cruise in it. You had Russell Crowe as a Dr. Jekyll, who was kind of leading the whole, almost like a S.H.I.E.L.D. type of agency that knew all about all the monsters and was trying to handle it. They had Johnny Depp cast as the Invisible Man, Javier Bardem as Frankenstein, Angelina Jolie as Bride of Frankenstein. So they had everything picked out. They had all these plans about all the big things they were going to do with the shared universe. And The Mummy came out with Tom Cruise, and it did not do well. So everything was scrapped. They put the cart before the horse, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot. And that's the way a lot of these cinematic universes seem to have been going. You could tell when you watched the movie, they were more interested in setting up future movies rather than focusing on the single film, which I think is something that the Marvel Studio and the MCU does probably a little better than all the other movies, again, which is why I think they've succeeded more. So that kind of put a kibosh on the whole shared monsters Universal universe. And Invisible Man came out. It was a psychological thriller, of course, mainly, and I only saw part of it, to be honest. I mean, I think I saw the last 20 minutes, really. But the thing that made that film successful was not the fact that it was great. I mean, it was getting good praise, definitely, but the fact that it made so much money because it had such a low budget. One of the things that really shot The Mummy in the foot, I'm not sure about Dracula Untold, but The Mummy at least, was its high budget. And that's what happens with a lot of these blockbuster films nowadays is they have $200-300 million budgets, add in marketing, the theater cut, all that stuff, and they have to make at least 3 times what they spent to make the movie to get any kind of gain or recoup their losses. So, your movie is expected to make 600-700 million at minimum in order to be considered a minimal success. And The Invisible Man, I think, was made for less than $10 million, made at least a couple hundred million at the box office. I mean, yeah, that's a good thing to do. That's why they have, the horror genre keeps alive and well, because those type of films aren't very expensive, and they usually make triple their budget. Quality wise, I'm not a big fan of them, but they do rather well, and that's why they keep churning out dozens upon dozens high profile horror movies, slasher movies, whatever, every year. So this one with Ryan Gosling, The Wolfman, again, I am anxious for it because I kind of have a little soft spot in my heart for werewolf and vampire films. Now, I don't want to talk about Twilight because I can go off on a tangent about that stuff. I mean, now I do like how the werewolves were done in Twilight, but the other things about the story are kind of what bug me in regards to that franchise. However, ones that I like, let's see. Now, call me crazy, of course, but Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf is just a fun film that I get a lot of kick out of. Yes, it's nonsensical and it's rather weird, of course, but as far as werewolf movies, I will put that up there in the satire range of enjoyment. Underworld, of course, with Kate Beckinsale. Those first 3 films I think were great vampire werewolf genre pieces. Beyond that, they were crap, but those first 3 I think really hold up. And then one of my favorites is too, again, kind of a guilty pleasure, I would call An American Werewolf in Paris with Tom Everett Scott in it. I know it's the pseudo sequel to the cult classic An American Werewolf in London. Although, the more you watch it, of course, or if you watch it, they don't really give too much of a relation to American Werewolf in London. Although, I think the girl in it, Sophie, something like that, she's supposed to be the daughter of the American from the original one, if I remember it correctly. But they really never really reference it, I don't believe, at least. But anyway, that's one I enjoy. Again, it's a little crazy, and I watched it when I was younger. It came out mid-90s or so, when I was almost about to hit my teenage years. But I rather enjoyed it. It had an awesome soundtrack, though. I love the soundtrack, featuring a remix of Mouth by Bush, which was a great soundtrack. But anyway, that's probably one of my favorite werewolf movies, and I'm a sucker again just to check out the werewolf genre, the supernatural horror, as I would call it. So that's why I'm kind of interested in a new rendition of Wolfman, because the original one with Benicio del Toro and Emily Blunt, I know didn't get a lot of praise. I've only seen it once, but I remember enjoying it, actually. I remember, it's very old school. I think it's very much what the original 1941 classic story-wise is, if I, if I think about it. And, if this one, I think I'd rather see more of a modern interpretation, perhaps. Not too modern, at least, but I mean, again, I liked what they did in 2010 with the Wolfman, that being much more of a, that direct adaptation. So maybe doing something a little bit different with Ryan Gosling. He's a great actor, so he can pull it off. I trust him as a thespian, as a producer, as a guy who, wants to make good movies, really, because to me, he hasn't had a lot of bad movies in my eyes, and he always brings it. His performance, he always brings it, so I'll give him that. So I have trust in him for this project. And again, I'm a sucker for a good werewolf movie. I'm a sucker for the supernatural thriller, supernatural horror, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a big Poltergeist guy though. What are the possession movies that are out now? The Becoming, or was there an Annabeth or something like that? Yeah, those movies are nothing. No, give me vampires and werewolves. That's my cup of tea. Throw in some, Frankenstein or Mummy, and all that stuff. That's what I like. So I'll stay away from all the rest of it. I really don't care for it. So I am interested in this now. Whether it's going to restart a dark universe or not, I don't know. I think, again, Universal, let's focus on the first film. You want to put little nuggets in there, like at the end, a little Nick Fury talking about the Avengers Initiative, stuff like that. That is fine, but let's focus on making this first film good and then worry about the rest, guys. So what do you think? Do you want another Wolfman starring Ryan Gosling? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it should be a more modern adaptation or much like the original? And of course, do you think they should tie it into a dark universe? Should it start one? Should it tie into The Mummy? Fire back, let me know, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com, and of course the Facebook group and Twitter account. And that is it for me today, guys. Head on over to the Facebook group and the Twitter account as well. I've been kind of doing this thing where I'm in a Superman mood. I woke up yesterday, Sunday morning, in a Superman mood, and with everything that's been going on, of course, in the news, in the world, I felt like, I want to look on the bright side. So Superman is that symbol of hope. So I'm sharing 7 stories, one every day, of my favorite hopeful Superman books. So, check them out if you haven't read them, of course, or fire back on the Facebook group or Twitter account and share some of your more hopeful comic book or superhero stories in this hour of need. I keep having to say this, it seems like, but hope everyone is safe out there. Be smart, guys, and we'll get through this. And remember, what would Superman do? That's the way I live my life, actually. What would Clark Kent do? What would your heroes do? What would Captain America do? Think about that. Don't say what would Punisher do, though, because Punisher would probably just, start firing Uzis at people, and Batman would probably start breaking some legs. Not my cup of tea. If it is yours, okay, but I don't think that's really a way you should live your life. But anyway, I'm babbling now, so I'm going to go, guys. But that's it. Have a good one, guys. Until next time, may the force be with us all.